Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Many had hoped this would be the year Indiana would end the fight over LGBT rights. But just 2 weeks into the legislative session, there are signs that won't happen.
I will not support any bill that diminishes the religious freedom of Hoosiers or interferes with the constitutional rights of our citizens to live out their beliefs in worship, service, or work.
Coming up, how a legislative compromise could impact transgender members of the community. Tougher regulations could mean some communities are being forced to give up local control of their water plants.
It's really difficult. And then the whole idea, for years and years and years, we've been able to successfully run our own, and you can't do it anymore because you've been regulated out of your ability to do it.
Ahead, what's behind the new requirements and how the changes impact ratepayers. Plus, we'll have the latest news headlines from across the state right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The controversy over Indiana's Religious Freedom Restoration Act is continuing at the Statehouse this year. Legislators will consider whether to add civil rights protections for sexual orientation and gender identity to the state's constitution. It's an issue Governor Mike Pence did not address until his State of the State address this week. And as Barbara Brozier reports, his stance has some Hoosiers gearing up for another battle over a familiar issue.
This is like my fourth sewing machine. I finally got one that I haven't broken.
Jean Smith spends a lot of her spare time sewing. Today she's repairing a beloved cycling jacket that she's worn for decades.
I've had this jacket for probably 30 or 35 years.
But she hasn't always felt as comfortable in her own skin as she does when she's wearing that coat.
I knew I was transgender at 5 years old, and I came out of the closet at 55 years old.
It took Smith so long to come out because she was afraid. She overcame that obstacle and is now living happily in Bloomington. But she's worried about how the ongoing conversation at the Statehouse could impact other members of the transgender community.
They're trying to keep us second-class citizens. They want to believe that their religious rights trump our rights as human beings.
Smith and Hoosiers across the state anxiously waited to hear Governor Mike Pence weigh in on the issue after months of silence. During his State of the State address this week, Pence said he will support civil rights legislation, but only if it doesn't infringe on religious liberty.
I will not support any bill that diminishes the religious freedom of Hoosiers or interferes with the constitutional rights of our citizens to live out their beliefs in worship, service, or work.
Several bills are being introduced during this year's short session that Republicans think would strike that balance. 2 Senate proposals would prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation, with exceptions for religious institutions. But the latest proposal doesn't include protections for gender identity.
We removed the transgender issue because that whole issue is still unsettled law. Related to that was this whole restroom, shower room issue, which was really causing a lot of confusion, I think, in the hallway, back in the districts with constituents and with our own members, saying we don't understand what kind of rules that's going to set us up for.
One of those bathroom proposals would make it illegal for people to knowingly use a single-sex restroom not designated for their biological sex. A second proposal would require bathrooms in schools to be designated for use by only one sex. Under his most recent civil rights proposal, Republican Senator Travis Holdman would move discussion of transgender issues, including the bathroom bills, to a summer study committee.
We make that a topic of an interim study committee so that issue and those folks would have center stage. There's no other topic to be discussed when we talk about that transgender issue here in the legislature next fall. And so it gives those folks basically the only voice to be heard on that particular issue.
We don't study people in summer committees. We don't send transgender people to be studied, nor do we really need to study this bathroom issue.
Freedom Indiana is working with Democrats to push for what they say is the only bill that would provide equal non-discrimination protections for all Hoosiers. It's a solution they call 4 words and a comma.
Includes sexual orientation, comma, gender identity in the state civil rights law. That has not happened to be the course that Senate leadership has chosen to follow.
But with a Republican-dominated Statehouse, odds are that legislation won't get a hearing. And that has people like Gene Smith wondering if Hoosier hospitality is just a myth.
I've lived here this since 1972. I've lived in Indiana for all of my life. And if this bathroom bill is the first time I've ever in my life thought, I got to get out of this state. If this would become the law of the state of Indiana, I would close my shop and I would move.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
There are 2 other proposals that relate to LGBT rights. One has been dubbed the Super RFRA and would repeal the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the fix that prohibits discrimination against the LGBT community. It would define several rights outlined in the state constitution, including freedom of religion as fundamental rights that the government cannot infringe upon unless it has a compelling government interest in doing so. And another proposal would ask voters to weigh in on the debate over whether legislators should pass civil rights protections for the LGBT community. Now, for headlines, we go over to Barbara Brozier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. An Indiana and Purdue University's in Fort Wayne working group recommends the dissolution of the joint university agreement. Lawmakers last session ordered an evaluation of the role and governance of IPFW and potential models for its restructuring. The report recommends the Indiana University side of the split should focus on health sciences and medical education programs, while the rest of the campus essentially becomes an extension of Purdue. The proposal is just a recommendation. Ultimately, it will be up to both Indiana and Purdue universities whether they'll take the recommendation. The 2 bills that would lessen the impact of last year's low ISTEP scores on teachers and schools are on their way to the governor's desk. The House bill unties the low scores from teacher evaluations. The Senate bill lets schools use the higher of this year or last year's A through F grade, which is based upon ISTEP scores. Governor Pence has indicated he will sign the bills. The 2 leading fantasy football companies are backing a proposal to regulate the industry. DraftKings and FanDuel support the bill that would make daily fantasy games legal and give oversight authority to the Indiana Horse Racing Commission as games of skill. Several public policy members question that distinction. FanDuel's attorney says there's an element of chance in virtually any game. The legislature is looking at multiple bills that would funnel millions of dollars into road and bridge improvements. As J.D. Gray reports, where that money would come from is really the biggest difference between the proposals and the issue lawmakers will have the hardest time agreeing upon.
Whether a tax increase is necessary is the big question facing lawmakers this session as they debate how to fund improvements to Indiana's aging infrastructure. House GOP lawmakers detailed their plan this week, and it relies on a gas and cigarette tax increase to cover infrastructure expenses.
We said next step is to move that sales tax and gasoline, which is the Democrat bill, by the way, over to roads and transportation. But when you do that, you create a hole in the budget.
That was introduced on Monday, and the next day, during the governor's State of the State speech, he said he didn't support the idea.
Now there's a lot of ways to pay for infrastructure, and I expect we're going to have a healthy debate. But here's my view. I think when you got money in the bank and you got the best credit rating in America, the last place you should look to pay for roads and bridges is the wallets and the pocketbooks of hard-working Hoosiers.
But House GOP leaders point to polling that shows most Hoosiers would be okay with the gas tax increase, which, under their plan, would amount to about $25 more a year for the average driver. Pence's plan provides nearly $500 million to roads and infrastructure. That money would come from the budget reserves and through bonds. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm J.D. Gray.
Supporters of legislation that would regulate high-fence deer hunting say their proposal may have traction this session. Last year, the state court system decided that Indiana has no authority to regulate facilities where people can pay money to hunt deer in an enclosed area. Now, a new bill would allow an unlimited number of preserves. Groups including the Humane Society and the Hoosier Environmental Council say the regulations aren't strict enough. The bill has already moved through a Senate committee. Adult adoptees are one step closer to obtaining sealed birth records. People like Pam Krosky have been pushing the government to unseal the records from Indiana's closed adoptions period between 1941 and 1993. Critics argued a similar bill last year would have compromised the privacy of mothers who gave up their children to adoption during that time period. The revised bill adds clearer protections for birth parents, giving them several months to respond if they do not consent to their information being released. Indiana's Chief Justice says she is adjusting the court system structure to respond to the state's drug crisis. In her State of the Judiciary address, Loretta Rush said drug cases are flooding courts across the state.
Wayne County Judge Dave Colger told us that in his 20 years as a prosecutor, he handled a total of 20 heroin cases. Today, as judge, he has heroin cases in his court daily. Fayette County Judge Paul Freed lamented that in his county of 23,000, he had 30 heroin overdoses in 30 days.
Rush is a proponent of drug courts and calls them a successful model to help people return to their life after addiction. She says one of her goals is replicating the drug court model throughout the state. The IU School of Medicine is investing in a program aimed at investigating, tracking, and curbing the spread of HIV in Indiana. It's called Treatment as Prevention and will start in Austin. The program will be studying patients' access to testing and treatment for HIV. Last year, more than 180 cases of HIV were discovered in Scott County. The school is partnering with a Canadian HIV research center that has found success with the program in British Columbia. Daniel Messel's past criminal history will not be admitted as evidence in his trial for the murder of an IU student. Messel is awaiting trial and is charged with the murder of Hannah Wilson. Brown County Circuit Court Judge Judith Stewart states she will deny the state's request for a closed hearing regarding Messel's prior criminal history. Stewart said she will allow the state to bring that evidence into a closed-door session with the defense. Stewart says submitting it in court may stir unfair prejudices from the jury, and it could be a problem if the evidence is ruled inadmissible. Messel's trial is set for June. A settlement agreement with Duke Energy concerning its coal gasification plant in Edwardsport has been expanded, which includes an agreement to cease burning coal at another plant no later than the end of 2020. The original settlement in September was a response to the plant's rising operating costs while failing to meet performance expectations. In the new agreement, Duke Energy agrees not to charge customers for $87.5 million of the operating costs for the plant. Bloomington's water supply is facing an increasing presence of chemical byproducts linked to cancer. Those chemicals are created when disinfectants like chlorine interact with items found in the water supply. In order to reduce those levels, the system needs to be flushed. That could be funded by the City of Bloomington Utilities or CBU raising their rates.
In order adequately and responsibly to fund the CBU as well as to expand the water quality program and a routine distribution system flushing, additional resources will likely be required, and I do expect the CBU to undertake a consideration of potential rate increases as needed.
Although the chemicals have not exceeded federal levels, the number of chemical byproducts has been increasing. An outbreak of canine distemper that killed 8 big cats at the Exotic Feline Rescue Center in Clay County appears to be over. Canine distemper is most common among dogs, but is almost always fatal in big cats. The Exotic Feline Rescue Center serves as a sanctuary for abused or abandoned animals and lost several tigers and a lion to the virus. Researchers from the University of Illinois traced the origin of the disease to coyotes, but it's unclear how the cats came into contact with the coyotes who were carrying the disease. The IU Athletics Department is making a move they haven't repeated since 1993. IU coach Kevin Wilson has received a new contract that will keep the coach with the Hoosiers for 6 more years. JD Gray reports that despite a losing record, the program is looking forward to Wilson's return.
IU football coach Kevin Wilson is staying with the team. The coach signed a new 6-year contract that is worth over $15 million and runs through 2021. This means Wilson will nearly double his annual salary of $1.3 million.
So to me, it's a new era for us. It's not an extension. We're on some solid ground. I think from there we want to take it and now really start building and see how far we can take our program.
Last season, the Hoosiers went 6-7. The season ended in a loss at the Pinstripe Bowl. This was IU's second bowl game in 20 years.
We have been making progress, and Kevin is a better coach than when he started, and I think he's a darn good coach. He's a tough guy. That to be successful in the Big Ten East, I think you need a tough guy. I told him when I hired him I was sick of having sand kicked in my face by the bullies in the Big Ten, and I wanted a tough guy to push back. Well, I think this team has taken on the persona of its coach, and they're tough.
In Wilson's 5 seasons at IU, he has a losing record at 20-41. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm JD Gray.
Well, you've heard by now there were 3 winners in this week's record Powerball drawing. The nearly $1.6 billion jackpot had people who'd never bought a ticket before lining up for a chance to get a piece of the winnings. There were 18 notable winners in the Hoosier state. A ticket worth $1 million was sold in Terre Haute. And across the state, there are 17 tickets out there worth between $50,000 and $100,000. Wednesday's drawing was the first time in U.S. history a lottery jackpot broke the $1 billion threshold. And Joe, with all that money, we could really take the show on the road if we would have won.
I know, but isn't it crazy to think 70% of the winners in the past have gone bankrupt?
You know, it's a crazy
maybe it's
thing
not a
to
bad
your
thing.
life. Yeah.
Thanks, Barbara. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Think about how many times a day you turn on the faucet and don't consider how the water gets to you. The process is changing in communities across the state as they struggle to keep up with changing state and federal regulations. And take a look at this guy. He's only a high school sophomore, but he already has an offer from IU. Ahead on the court with Musa Jallo and more on how he's capturing the attention of college recruiters across the country. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Nature takes you places where you've never gone before.
It's watching something that's actually happened.
Nature sure draw me in the story.
Just their power and their grace.
You know, it was just so beautiful to watch them.
The movement and just watching the body and watching the chase.
Like this huge, lush, vibrant watercolor.
Tim's.
There was such a shot of underneath watching these elephants swim in this deep water.
I had no idea even they could swim like that.
I saw one monkey pulling on this one monkey's tail, and the monkey like, man, what you doing? What you doing?
It's like the theater of the wild or something.
7 billion trillion animals living on one planet.
It's like more colorful than than you think life can possibly be.
Somewhere between the mystique and the beauty of it is reason enough to sit down and watch.
That's life. And that's nature.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, you probably use between 80 and 100 gallons of water every day, but when you flush the toilet or turn on the faucet, it's nothing you even think twice about. It's so simple for us as consumers, but for the utilities and those working on the back end, it's not always easy. You can travel across the state and see the struggles local communities are facing to keep their water plants up to federal regulations. I went to one small city in Indiana that almost lost control of its utility. The 2010 census showed Greencastle is growing. For the first time, the population topped 10,000 people. But the new number meant the city was also now subject to new regulations for a precious resource, water.
I really don't know. If there's something to lose sleep over at night, I mean, that's it.
Sue Murray's last day as Greencastle mayor became the deadline for the city to comply with state orders to upgrade its water treatment plant. The Indiana Department of Environmental Management classified Greencastle as a large water producer under the influence of surface water in October of 2013. The agency gave Greencastle a deadline of December 31st to comply with new regulations.
They consider groundwater basically pre-filtered. So if your well is too close to that water source, you can basically pull in that influence.
Greencastle's water wells are located along Big Walnut Creek. That's a concern to regulators since the wells could be pumping water from the creek, making it susceptible to viruses and other contaminants.
There's a new groundwater rule. It says that you have to sample your wells directly and not through the distribution system like they normally do. When they sample the wells directly, one of their wells got a positive for E. coli.
The city had to raise water rates to pay for more than $2.5 million in plant upgrades, including building a 1 million-gallon tank so they wouldn't have to staff the plant 24 hours a day. But they can't run the plant without at least 4 certified operators.
You have to be able to pass a pretty rigorous test that the state gives out, and at this time they only give it out twice a year.
If you don't pass the test Lovell describes as rigorous, you don't get certified as an operator.
The test is difficult. It's not easy, but you don't want to make it easy because these people are in charge of people's drinking water.
10% of the people who took the last test passed.
Lovell was one of the few who passed it the first time. After taking it once, twice, 3 times, many other staff members still hadn't passed it.
I wrote to the commissioner and I said, what are we going to do? He said, well, we're working on changing the test. And maybe by the first of the year. I said, it doesn't help me.
Murray says the city's utility conducted a national search for certified operators. The results were disappointing. No qualified applicants. She was facing the realization that the city might have to sell its water facility. It's happening in cities across the state. Indiana American Water provides service to more than 50 communities in Indiana, including Terre Haute and Kokomo, to name a few. The company is able to absorb the costs and resources of operating a high-level water plant easier than a small city would. Kokomo Mayor Greg Goodnight says he's happy with the service Indiana American Water provides, but at times wishes the city had more control.
We ran the water company. There may be areas where we would extend lines to make sure that all our citizens have, we have some areas that are still on city wells.
Hollingsworth says there is a sense of pride lost when cities privatize a service.
That's my town. Those are my folks. Those are my town people. But I've known a lot of little towns that went with bigger corporations. Indiana American's one of the biggest ones.
Privatization often means losing control of water rates, plant jobs, and response time. Lovell breathed a sigh of relief when, after 4 tries, the city's utility operators did pass the test, and the city met all of its deadlines to be able to continue to operate the plant.
And we're going to be able to maintain our own operators in-house who are local individuals who have been working for the utility for many, many years, some of them up to 38 years, who've ingrained, they have a good heart, and they care about their community because they live here.
But still, there could be a new problem on the horizon. Certified operators are in high demand.
They're retiring. It's a high level that we have here, that the WT4s and 5s. We don't have a lot of people that can pass those tests, and when we do, they're picked up by people that, the bigger companies.
The state has commissioned Ivy Tech to revise the operator tests, and Hollingsworth says beginning in February, they'll administer them monthly.
It's not like we're just throwing them to the wolves. So I just want to let you know that even though we're a regulator, we also help systems out.
Mayors Murray and Goodnight said although most of the talk is about road funding, unfunded mandates for water and sewer upgrades also take up a big part of infrastructure money. Anderson and Carmel are other cities under review now for being under the influence of surface water. City officials in Anderson approved a 2-year 47% water rate increase last year, and officials are applying for a $14 million state loan for plant upgrades. He may be a sophomore, but Bloomington High School North guard Musa Jallow is attracting major attention from some of the best college basketball teams in the nation. Harry Wagner reports on a young player facing competition on and off the court.
Fans pack Bloomington North's gymnasium for a big game against Bloomington South. While many are here to see the crosstown rivals duke it out, there's one player who stands out, a sophomore at Bloomington North who dominates as the lead scorer.
I started as a freshman, and so everybody's always looked at me as one of the better players on the team, and so I guess that just kind of puts a target on my back.
It's not just fans who are taking notice of Musa Jallow. The young standout already has scholarship offers from Toledo and IUPUI, and the Hoosiers want him to come play at Assembly Hall. They are hoping to lure him to IU after high school.
I'm still waiting until I get older and figure out what school I want to go to.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Harrison Wagner.
Hoosiers would certainly enjoy the chance to see Jallow play for the better part of a decade if he makes the decision to go to IU, but he still has a few more years to decide. It's always exciting to see a hometown player out on that IU court. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.